The artificial sunset glowed over Eden's Reach, a shining space colony orbiting the distant blue planet Eltara 4. It was a place where humans and aliens worked together, a place where old fears were fading and new friendships were being born. Among the thousands who called it home was Ethan Cole, a human engineer with a calm smile and tired eyes. He had come from Earth 2 years ago to help build the colony's new power grid, but he found something far greater than just work. He found Lyra Thavel. Lyra was not human. Her skin shimmered faintly like glass touched by moonlight, and her silver eyes reflected everything around her with soft light. She came from the Elorian species, a race known for their intelligence and empathy. While most humans still felt uneasy around them, Ethan didn't. To him, she was the most beautiful and fascinating person he had ever met. They met during a maintenance accident in one of the energy tunnels. Lyra had been trapped under a collapsed conduit, and Ethan was the one who risked radiation exposure to free her. From that day, they worked together often, fixing systems, solving problems, and slowly falling for each other in small, quiet ways. Lyra admired Ethan's bravery and kindness. Ethan admired her calm logic and her strange musical laugh. Months passed, and the bond between them deepened. The colony's people whispered about the human and the Elorian scientist. Some said it was odd, others said it was inspiring. Ethan didn't care about gossip. What he felt for Lyra was real, and he decided he couldn't hide it anymore. That evening, under the glow of the artificial aurora, the one that shimmered across the colony's transparent dome, Ethan stood on the observation platform, nervously holding a small silver ring. It wasn't made of precious metal, but of recycled titanium, carved into a shape that matched Elorian design. He had spent 3 nights shaping it himself. Lyra arrived exactly on time, her soft steps echoing across the platform. "You wanted to meet me here?" she asked gently. Ethan turned, his heart pounding. "Yeah, there's something I need to say." She smiled slightly, her head tilting in that curious Elorian way. "You seem nervous. Humans often get nervous before delivering bad news." "It's not bad news," Ethan said quickly. "Actually, it's good, I think." He took a deep breath and looked into her shining eyes. "Lyra, we've been through everything. System failures, council meetings, cultural misunderstandings. Even the time your lab nearly exploded because of my coffee machine." Lyra laughed softly. "You mean when your strange human drink caused a plasma reaction?" "Yeah, that," Ethan smiled. "Through all of it, you've been there. You've made this cold metal world feel alive. You've taught me things about patience, about listening, about seeing the universe differently. And his voice caught for a moment. "I love you, Lyra." For a long moment, there was only silence, the hum of the oxygen filters and the faint glow of the stars beyond the glass. Lyra's eyes softened. "You love me," she repeated, as if testing the meaning of the words. "Yes," Ethan said firmly. "I don't care what anyone thinks. I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." He opened his hand, showing her the ring. "Will you marry me?" Lyra blinked, her pupils widening slightly, the Elorian sign of surprise. She looked down at the ring, then back at him. For a moment, Ethan feared he had made a mistake. But then she smiled. It was a gentle, glowing smile that made her seem like part of the aurora itself. "Yes," she said softly. Ethan froze. "Yes? Yes," she repeated, and her voice was full of warmth. "I say yes, Ethan Cole of Earth." Ethan's heart felt like it would burst. He laughed, not out of humor but pure joy, and gently placed the ring on her slender hand. Lyra's skin shimmered brighter as the ring's metal adjusted to her body's energy field. "Wait," she said suddenly, with a thoughtful look. "If I say yes, it means my family will become your family." Ethan chuckled nervously. "Of course. That's how marriage works." "No," she said, shaking her head. "In Elorian culture, it means more than that. Our families merge completely. My sisters, my mother, my kin circle. They will be part of your life now." Ethan blinked. "Your sisters?" Lyra nodded. "4 of them." "4?" he repeated, laughing in disbelief. "You have 4 sisters?" "Yes," Lyra said simply. "Is that a problem?" He hesitated. "No, of course not. The more the merrier, right?" Lyra smiled again. "Good. They will be delighted to meet you. I will call them tonight." Ethan froze for half a second, unsure if she meant through a call or an interstellar visit. But before he could ask, Lyra stepped closer and placed her hand against his chest. "You are brave, Ethan Cole," she said softly. "You have chosen not just me, but the bond that comes with me. That is what makes humans remarkable." Ethan smiled, though part of his brain whispered that maybe he should have asked more questions first. The next morning, the news spread across Eden's reach. A human and an Aelorian were officially engaged, the first such union in recorded history. The Interstellar Council sent a message of congratulations. News drones hovered around Ethan's apartment asking for interviews. Even the governor of the colony invited them for dinner. Ethan didn't care much about the attention. He was just happy to see Lyra smile. The colony's AI system even broadcast a glowing message through the halls. "Harmony through unity. Congratulations to the first human Aelorian couple." Lyra spent the day explaining Aelorian customs to Ethan. "When an Aelorian accepts a proposal," she said, "her sisters are informed immediately. They come to support the union and ensure their siblings' comfort. It is part of our bond." Ethan nodded politely, still half distracted by the messages flooding his communicator. "So they'll visit, right?" Lyra tilted her head. "Visit? No, they will live with us for a time. It is traditional." Ethan almost dropped his drink. "Live with us?" "Yes," Lyra said cheerfully. "It is considered a blessing." "You will like them." Ethan forced a smile. "Of course. I'm sure I will." That night, as he lay in bed staring at the soft glow of the ceiling light, Ethan tried to imagine what life would be like. He loved Lyra deeply, that much was certain. But living with 4 alien sisters, that was new territory. He thought about what his friend Marcus had said earlier that day. "You realize you just signed up for an intergalactic family you've never met, right?" Ethan had laughed then, but now he wasn't so sure it was a joke. 2 days later, Lyra received a transmission from her homeworld. Ethan stood beside her as 4 holographic figures appeared in the air. Tall, elegant Aelorian women, each glowing in slightly different shades. The eldest, Seren, spoke first. Her voice was calm and commanding. "So this is the human who captured our sister's heart." The second, Nira, looked less amused. "He seems fragile." The third, Velen, smiled widely. "He's adorable. Look at his face." And the youngest, Tira, waved playfully. "Hi, future brother. We can't wait to see your planet home." Ethan blinked, trying to find his voice. Hi," Lyra smiled proudly. "These are my sisters. They will arrive next week." Ethan's mouth opened slightly. "Arrive?" "Yes," Lyra said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "They are already on their way." Ethan's heart skipped. "They're coming here? To live with us?" Lyra nodded, smiling. "Yes, you will love them." Ethan stared out the window at the stars, wondering if he had just started the most complicated and possibly most amazing marring chapter of his life. For now, though he could only whisper to himself, what could possibly go wrong? The morning sun, or what passed for it inside Eden's reach, cast a soft gold glow across the orbital colony. Ethan Cole woke to the low hum of the docking bay, a sound that usually meant routine arrivals or supplies being delivered. Today, however, the hum carried a sense of weight, anticipation, and, unknowingly to him, chaos. Lyra had mentioned her sister's arrival days ago, but Ethan hadn't fully processed what that meant. 4 alien women, each with her own personality, coming to live in his small apartment with Lyra. He had imagined polite greetings, maybe a quick visit, perhaps even a celebratory meal. But reality, as he would soon learn, was far different. The shuttle's docking lights blinked, signaling its arrival. Ethan, still rubbing sleep from his eyes, opened the apartment door. There, standing just beyond the threshold, were 4 radiant Aelorian women. Each one was striking in her own way. Their skin shimmered subtly under the artificial sunlight, each with a unique hue ranging from soft silver to pale violet. Their eyes glowed faintly, reflecting curiosity, intelligence, and, in one case, mischief. Lyra stepped forward, holding Ethan's hand. "Ethan, meet my sisters." The eldest, Serene, approached first. She moved with a grace that suggested command and confidence. Her voice was calm but firm. "So this is the human who has my sister's heart." Her silver blue eyes studied him carefully, assessing. "I hope you understand the responsibility that comes with this union." Ethan swallowed hard. "Yes, I think so," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. He felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. Serene's presence alone was enough to make him feel tiny, like a child facing a mountain. The second, Nira crossed her arms and gave him a long, appraising look. She radiated strength and intensity. "I am Nira," she said bluntly. "I do not trust humans easily. You will need to prove yourself." Ethan's stomach twisted slightly. I will do my best," he said, hoping that was the correct human response. The third Velen broke the tension. She bounced forward with curious energy, her eyes wide and sparkling. "Oh, you're real!" "You're actually real." She circled him like a scientist inspecting an experimental specimen. "And you're alive, yes? You don't look dangerous, yet strange humans have a lot of surprises." Her tone was playful, almost teasing. Ethan couldn't help but chuckle nervously. Finally, the youngest, Tira, stepped forward. Mischievousness practically radiated from her. Hi, she said, skipping slightly. "I'm going to love living here. Or maybe drive you crazy. Either way, fun." She gave Ethan a quick wink before spinning around and inspecting the apartment with lightning speed. Ethan looked at Lyra, who gave him a small, reassuring smile. "They are excited," she said gently. "It is a sign of respect and love in our culture. They will support our life together." Ethan nodded, trying to internalize that he had just agreed to share his small apartment with 4 extremely intelligent, extremely confident alien women. Of course, support. Understood. The first few hours were a whirlwind of introductions, questions, and explanations. Serene inspected the apartment with meticulous precision, noting structural weaknesses and potential hazards. Nira questioned Ethan on his past projects, cross-examining his engineering choices with precision. Valen, meanwhile, kept asking about human culture, customs, and food. "What is toast?" she asked, genuinely puzzled. Tira darted around, moving objects and giggling, occasionally trying to get Ethan to participate in little pranks, like hiding his tools or swapping his coffee cup with a glowing nutrient vial. Ethan found himself overwhelmed but also fascinated. Humans were good at many things, but he had never experienced this level of curiosity, energy, and observation. It was like living with 4 separate starships of personality, all orbiting around his life. "Are you okay?" Lyra asked softly, noticing Ethan's wide eyes as Tira rearranged the couch. I think so," he said. "It's just a lot," Lyra smiled. "They will calm down. Or maybe not. It is their nature." By lunchtime, the sisters had already started reshaping Ethan's apartment. Serene had suggested a logical layout for the rooms, moving furniture in a way that maximized space and efficiency. Nira installed small drones for safety monitoring, which hovered silently, occasionally beeping when Ethan tried to sit too close to a heat vent. Velen kept talking to Ethan about strange human inventions, such as the blender and the vacuum cleaner, both of which she regarded with intense suspicion. Tira had created a game where she tried to mimic his every movement, resulting in Ethan tripping over his own feet several times. Despite the chaos, there was laughter, mostly from Lyra, who seemed quietly proud of her sister's energy. Ethan realized that he was not angry or frustrated. He was impressed. He had thought humans were resourceful, intelligent, and capable, but these Elorian sisters were like living supercomputers with personalities. And somehow he had to navigate this new reality. The real test came when Ethan tried to make lunch. He had prepared a simple sandwich, thinking it would be a calm moment. As he reached for the bread, Velen asked, "What is this?" "It looks soft and fragile." She poked it experimentally. "It will collapse if pressure exceeds 0.3 newtons per square centimeter." Ethan blinked. It's just bread." Serene raised an eyebrow. "Bread is not optimized for nutritional efficiency. Have you considered alternative protein sources?" Nira's drone hovered nearby, scanning the sandwich. It beeped disapprovingly. Tira, however, had different plans. She darted forward, grabbed a slice, and threw it at Velen, causing Velen to squeal. Ethan ducked instinctively, but Lyra caught the flying slice. "Peace, please," she said, smiling. Ethan groaned. "I was just trying to eat." Lyra laughed softly. "They are curious, Ethan. You must understand their nature." Ethan took a deep breath, realizing that patience would be essential in this new arrangement. As the day went on, Ethan found himself adapting. He learned that Seren enjoyed quiet observation and long conversations about strategy. Nira tested his patience with logical debates. Valine delighted in asking endless questions, and Tira thrived on playful chaos. Slowly, he began to see a rhythm. He even started to enjoy the challenges and the small moments of connection, like Valen laughing at a simple human joke, or Tira letting him win a minor game of skill. By evening, Ethan had prepared a small dinner, a human meal with some Aelorian tweaks suggested by Lyra. The sisters gathered around, their glowing skin reflecting the warm light of the apartment. They ate in a strange harmony, occasionally commenting on the textures, flavors, and energy efficiency of each dish. After dinner, they all settled in the living room. Seren was reading a data pad. Nira was inspecting the drone system. Velen was asking Ethan about gravity variations on Earth, and Tira was lying on the floor, playfully kicking a floating sphere of light. Ethan finally sat back, exhausted but content, beside Lyra. "You handled today well," Lyra said quietly. Many humans would have panicked. Ethan smiled, though his eyes were tired. "It's different, but I think I can do this somehow." Lyra squeezed his hand. "You don't have to do it alone. We are all in this together." Ethan looked around at the four sisters, each busy in her own way. He realized she was right. While the apartment was chaotic, full of questions, experiments, and playful tricks, there was also warmth, laughter, and a sense of unity. He had never lived like this before. Humans often prided themselves on individuality, but now he saw the power of family and the strength of unity across worlds. For the first time, he felt not just connected to Lyra, but to something much larger. A family unlike any he had known was forming right here in his small apartment in orbit, around a distant world. Night fell over Eden's Reach, and the stars outside the transparent dome glittered softly. Ethan lay awake, listening to the quiet hums of drones and the soft breathing of Lyra beside him. Somewhere in the apartment, Tira was giggling quietly. Velian was still asking questions. Nira was monitoring systems, and Seren was quietly observing everything. Ethan closed his eyes and whispered, "What have I gotten myself into?" Then he smiled because he knew the answer. He had gotten himself into something extraordinary. Humans were known for adaptability, courage, and heart. He had a chance to prove it now, not just for himself, but for Lyra, her sisters, and the unity they represented. For the first time, chaos felt like home, and Ethan the human was ready to face it. The first few days with Lyra's four sisters had been a whirlwind of surprises, but Ethan Cole had started to think he was slowly adjusting. He was wrong. By the third morning, the apartment felt less like a home and more like a living laboratory crossed with a small interstellar amusement park. Seren, Nira, Velen, and Tira had begun to settle in, each in her own way, and Ethan quickly realized that no amount of planning could tame the chaos that accompanied Aelorian siblings. Ethan's first encounter of the day came when he tried to brew a simple cup of coffee. He had thought he was safe. The sisters seemed preoccupied with other matters, but as soon as he touched the coffee machine, Valen appeared at his side, her luminous eyes wide with curiosity. "Human caffeine rituals," she said, tilting her head. "You boil water, crush seeds, mix them, then ingest for temporary alertness?" "Yes," Ethan said, trying not to sound defensive. "It's tradition." "Tradition?" Velen repeated, incredulous. "Why not ingest nutrients in a stable gel form?" "It is safer and more efficient," Ethan sighed. "Because humans like coffee." She narrowed her eyes. "I will observe this process." Before he could protest, she leaned forward and accidentally knocked the mug into the air. Ethan lunged, catching it just before the dark liquid splashed across the counter. "Feline!" he shouted, his patience already thinning. Lyra appeared just then, placing a calming hand on his shoulder. "Ethan, remember, they mean no harm. They are simply curious." Ethan nodded, gripping the mug tightly. "Yes, but curiosity sometimes destroys things." By mid-morning, Nira decided that Ethan's apartment lacked proper safety measures. "This dwelling is unprepared for emergencies," she announced. Without waiting for a reply, she began installing small hovering drones designed to detect heat, movement, and potential hazards. Ethan watched helplessly as one drone hovered too close to his new laptop, causing it to shut down abruptly. "Your technology," Nira said critically, "is too exposed. I'll fix it later," Ethan muttered. Seren, meanwhile, was quietly observing him from the balcony, analyzing his every movement with an almost military precision. She occasionally made notes on a small holographic pad. Ethan couldn't tell whether she was impressed or planning his evaluation. Tira, as usual, was the source of the most chaos. She had discovered the apartment's anti-gravity storage units and now treated them like a playground. Small objects floated haphazardly, spinning in midair, and Ethan found himself dodging rogue books, utensils, and a floating lamp. "This is impossible," he muttered, ducking as the lamp narrowly missed his head. Lyra gave him a reassuring smile. "You are adapting, Ethan. That is what makes humans remarkable." Ethan groaned. "I'm not sure if I'm remarkable or just very lucky to survive." The real test of coexistence came in the afternoon, when Ethan's best friend Marcus came to visit. Marcus had always been a skeptic when it came to human-alien relationships, but he was supportive of Ethan. Unfortunately, he had not been warned about the sisters' energy levels. As Marcus stepped into the apartment, Nira's drone immediately identified him as a potential threat and descended rapidly. Marcus flinched as the drone hovered inches from his face. "Watch it," Marcus shouted. "It's just me." Ethan rushed forward. "It's okay. She won't hurt you." But Nira's drone didn't listen. It pinned Marcus against the wall gently but firmly, scanning him from head to toe. Nira, standing behind it, observed silently, her arms crossed. "I'm just visiting," Marcus shouted again, panic creeping into his voice. Ethan waved frantically at Nira. "She's human-friendly. Human-friendly." Nira finally deactivated the drone and studied Marcus. "You passed the initial inspection," she said coldly. "Do not alarm our household again." Marcus, pale but unharmed, muttered, "I don't think I'll be visiting often." Ethan exhaled deeply. "Welcome to my life," he said, looking at Lyra, who chuckled softly. As evening approached, Valen took it upon herself to educate Ethan on Alorian humor. "Humor is a key to understanding emotional resonance," she explained. "I will teach you." For the next hour, Ethan endured Valen's endless attempts at jokes, which involved complex gravity simulations and odd sound vibrations. Ethan laughed politely when he could, but often found himself completely confused. Meanwhile, Tira had discovered Ethan's AI assistant and altered its voice to match hers. "Good evening, Ethan," the AI said in Tira's playful tone. Or should I say, "Beware, human." Ethan jumped in surprise every time it spoke, while Lyra shook her head and smiled. Serene spent the evening quietly analyzing Ethan's reactions to her sister's antics. She occasionally whispered advice to Lyra, who nodded but did not intervene. Nira, after monitoring Ethan's movement patterns for several hours, finally concluded he had sufficient coordination for integration into household dynamics. Ethan slumped onto the couch, exhausted. He had expected living with Lyra to be challenging, but never imagined the intensity of living with her sisters. Still, as he watched them interact, each unique, each radiant, each full of life, he felt a deep sense of admiration. These were not just Lyra's sisters. They were brilliant, curious, and strong beings, and somehow he had to coexist with them. The real challenge arrived late that night. Ethan had hoped to enjoy a quiet moment with Lyra, alone for once. He sat on the balcony, looking out at the stars, feeling the soft hum of the colony below. Lyra joined him, wrapping her arm around his shoulder. "I know this is difficult," she said softly. "They can be overwhelming at first." Ethan nodded. "Overwhelming is one word for it. I think I need a manual." Lyra laughed lightly. "There is no manual. Humans adapt through observation, empathy, and persistence. You already show all three." Ethan smiled weakly. "That's comforting." "I hope so." Before they could continue their conversation, a sudden alarm blared inside the apartment. Valen's joke experiment with anti-gravity objects had gone awry. Several items were spinning rapidly in the living room, creating a small cyclone of books, utensils, and a floating coffee mug. "Valen," Lyra shouted. Valen giggled nervously. "It was supposed to be a test." Ethan leapt to action, dodging objects as he attempted to stabilize the floating chaos. He grabbed Tira's floating sphere of light and directed it toward the wall, creating a small energy shield. Serene calmly adjusted the apartment's gravity controls to minimize turbulence. Nira moved drones strategically to prevent any objects from hitting fragile surfaces. Within minutes, the chaos was contained. Ethan sank into the couch, panting. That was intense. Lyra sat beside him, brushing his hair back gently. "You handled it well. Humans often find ways to adapt in moments of unexpected difficulty. That is why I love you." Ethan smiled despite his exhaustion. Thanks, but I think I'm going to need more practice, Lyra chuckled. We all do. It is part of life here, part of our family. By the end of the week, Ethan realized that living with Lyra's sisters was not just a challenge, it was an adventure. Each day brought new surprises, from Valen's endless curiosity to Tira's playful tricks, Nira's critical observations to Serene's quiet wisdom. Ethan found himself thinking differently, reacting faster and appreciating life more fully than ever before. He had never been more aware of the human capacity for patience, adaptability, and resilience. Even in the face of chaos, humans could find solutions, make connections, and create harmony. And living with these 4 Aelorian sisters, as exhausting as it was, showed him just how remarkable humanity could be. For the first time, Ethan felt that being human was not just about survival or intelligence. It was about heart, courage, and the ability to face challenges with humor and creativity. He might be outnumbered and overwhelmed, but he was learning to thrive, not just for himself but for Lyra and her sisters, and for the unity they represented. As he lay in bed that night, exhausted but exhilarated, he whispered to himself, "Humans really can do anything, even survive this." And for the first time, he truly believed it. Peace had returned to Eden's Reach after the first chaotic week with Lyra's 4 sisters. Ethan Cole had started to feel slightly more comfortable navigating life with them. He had even begun to anticipate their moods, adjust to their quirks, and enjoy their unique energy. But the universe, as it often does, had a way of reminding him that calm was temporary. It started with an urgent transmission from the Interstellar Council. The message was brief but alarming. The neighboring Vorsk Empire, a militaristic alien race, had issued a formal complaint. They demanded that the Human-Aelorian Union be dissolved, claiming that hybrid relationships threatened their vision of species purity. Ethan read the message aloud to Lyra as they stood on the observation platform. She had summoned her sisters, all 4 of whom were now actively involved in the discussion. Serene's eyes narrowed. "The Vorsk do not understand unity," she said. "They fear connection between species because it challenges their hierarchy." Nira's voice was sharp. "Fear will not protect them. If they attempt action, we must be ready." Velen leaned forward, eyes wide. "Action? Do you mean they will attack?" Tira bounced slightly on her feet. "Ooh, adventure." "I like adventures." Ethan swallowed hard. "Attack? You mean military ships? Weapons?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, they may attempt to pressure the colony to end the Union. It is a test of our resolve." Ethan felt a familiar rush of adrenaline. Humans weren't known for interstellar battles yet, but they had something powerful. Ingenuity, courage, and heart. He knew they had to act carefully but decisively. The first step was to strengthen the colony's defenses. Ethan, Lyra, and her sisters convened in the small command center. Ethan began working on the colony's energy grid, using his human engineering skills to integrate Aelorian technology. He marveled at the sisters' abilities. Serene coordinated the strategic planning, drawing up possible Vorsk approaches. Nira oversaw defensive drones and shield placements, her precision unmatched. Velen suggested ways to reinforce structural integrity using human-Aelorian hybrid materials. And Tira experimented with playful holographic decoys that could confuse enemy sensors. For hours, Ethan worked alongside them. He realized that humans could be fast thinkers, creative problem solvers, and adaptable, all qualities that the Aelorians respected. He suggested a few innovative changes to their shield grid, combining human ingenuity with alien technology. Lyra smiled at him, clearly impressed. "You are proving why humans are remarkable," she said softly, her hand resting briefly on his shoulder. Ethan smiled despite the tension. "We have to be ready," he said. 3 days later, the Vorsk ships arrived at the edge of the colony's orbit. Their massive silhouettes darkened the stars, engines glowing ominously. The colony's warning systems activated, and all citizens were instructed to prepare for potential evacuation. Ethan stood on the observation platform beside Lyra and her sisters. He could feel the tension in the air. Serene's voice cut through the silence. "They underestimate us. They do not know the strength of unity. We will show them." Nira adjusted a series of drones, her eyes glowing faintly as she calculated trajectories and defense positions. Velen and Tira worked together, setting up holographic decoys and adaptive shields. Ethan monitored the power grid, ensuring that the colony's energy would support their defensive systems without overload. Despite the fear, Ethan felt a surge of confidence. Humans might not have been physically superior to the Vorsk, but they had something the Vorsk could not predict: creativity, courage, and emotional connection. The first attack came at dusk. Vorsk ships fired energy pulses toward the colony, testing its shields. Ethan's heart raced as he activated the hybrid defense system, a combination of human-engineered energy nodes and Aelorian resonance amplifiers. The pulses met a glowing barrier powered not just by technology, but by the synchronized neural energy of Lyra and her sisters. The barrier shimmered, absorbing the energy and redirecting it safely away from the colony. Ethan watched in awe. The sisters' energy, combined with human ingenuity, created a shield that the Vorsk could not penetrate. Velen cheered. "It works. It actually works." Tira laughed gleefully. "I knew it would. Humans are fun." Nira remained focused, recalibrating drone paths and shield angles. Sarian stood tall, guiding the sisters and maintaining perfect synchronization. Ethan felt a mixture of pride and amazement. Humanity had always been underestimated in the galaxy, yet here he was, a human, leading efforts alongside alien beings to protect lives, demonstrating the ingenuity and resilience of his species. As the Vorsk fleet intensified their attack, Ethan noticed a pattern in their firing sequence. Drawing on his human experience with problem-solving and improvisation, he suggested a new alignment of the defense grid. "If we redirect the energy pulses this way," he explained, "we can not only block them but create a reflection field to confuse their targeting systems." Saren studied him carefully, then nodded. "You are correct. Implement it." With Lyra and her sisters assisting, Ethan recalibrated the grid. The next Vorsk attack met with an unexpected outcome. Their pulses bounced unpredictably, causing confusion among the invaders. Several ships collided, forcing the Vorsk commander to retreat temporarily. The colony erupted in cheers. Humans and Aelorians had combined their strengths to repel an enemy far superior in numbers. Ethan's heart swelled with pride. He had never felt so connected to his own species, so proud of what humans could achieve when courage and intelligence were applied. That night, after the Vorsk retreat, the family gathered in Ethan's apartment. Despite exhaustion, there was a quiet celebration. Lyra's sisters, who had been fierce and unyielding during the battle, now displayed a softer side. Saren offered advice on long-term security. Nira monitored the drones to ensure they were still functional. Feline asked endless questions about human tactics, fascinated by their creativity. Tira, exhausted but delighted, floated a small holographic fireworks display in the center of the room. Ethan leaned against Lyra, taking it all in. He realized that humans were often underestimated in the galaxy. Other species looked at them as fragile, inexperienced, or weak. But humans had courage, intelligence, and adaptability, qualities that could surprise even the most advanced alien civilizations. Lyra squeezed his hand. "You see, Ethan, you are extraordinary, not just for what you do, but for how you think. You represent the best of humanity." Ethan smiled, feeling warmth and pride. "It's not just me," he said. "It's all of us, and humans, Aelorians, and the way we work together." Tira floated close, a mischievous grin on her face. "And it's fun, too. Humans are fun." Saren nodded in approval. "Yes, your species surprises us, Ethan Cole. You demonstrate courage, creativity, and resilience. These are qualities we value." Nira's eyes softened. "Indeed, humans are capable of more than we imagined." Valen giggled. "I'm impressed. And maybe a little scared. Humans are tricky." Ethan laughed, feeling the weight of the day lift slightly. They had faced an enemy together, defended the colony, and learned something important: that humanity, when combined with unity, could stand against threats far greater than themselves. The next morning, calm returned to the colony. Ethan walked through the corridors with Lyra and her sisters. Citizens nodded and smiled as they passed, inspired by the events of the previous night. Humans were no longer seen as fragile newcomers. They were partners, innovators, and a bridge between worlds. Ethan glanced at Lyra, then at her sisters. "I never imagined this life," he said quietly. Lyra smiled. "None of us do. But together we can handle anything." Saren nodded approvingly. Unity is strength. Your species has proven itself today. Nira gave a rare smile. Humans may be unpredictable, but they are capable of great courage. Valen bounced happily. And fun. Don't forget fun. Tira floated up and hugged Ethan lightly. You're officially part of the family, and the galaxy thinks you're amazing. Ethan laughed, feeling more connected than ever. He realized that life in Eden's Reach, with Lyra, her sisters, and all the challenges of living across worlds, was not just chaotic, but meaningful. Humanity had been underestimated, yes, but moments like these showed that they could rise to meet any challenge, blending courage, creativity, and heart. He looked out at the stars once more, realizing that this was only the beginning. Humans had proven themselves to the galaxy, and he had proven something to himself, that he could face anything, even chaos, and emerge stronger. And as the first rays of a new artificial sun touched the colony, Ethan felt ready for whatever the universe would throw at him next. The morning light of Eden's Reach shimmered softly through the transparent dome of the colony, painting the corridors in hues of gold and blue. Ethan Cole stood in his apartment looking around at the chaos that had over weeks become comfortingly familiar. Lyra Thavel, radiant and calm as ever, moved gracefully through the living space, organizing small items as if preparing for a day of peace. Behind her, her four sisters went about their own tasks, each with her own energy, personality, and brilliance, turning Ethan's small apartment into a vibrant home that reflected not just alien culture, but human resilience as well. Ethan shook his head, smiling. He had come to understand that life with Lyra's sisters was never going to be quiet. Seren, the eldest, was adjusting the apartment's security protocols with meticulous precision, making notes on every possible contingency. Nira was inspecting the drones, recalibrating their sensors to better coordinate with Ethan's human-designed systems. Valine, always curious, hovered over the counter, questioning every item and asking seemingly endless questions about human culture. And Tira, the youngest, was bouncing around with her usual playful energy, her glowing eyes sparkling as she tested anti-gravity objects in mid-air. Ethan watched them all, feeling a warmth he had never experienced before. This was more than chaos, and it was life. Life in its fullest, brightest, most unpredictable form. The past week had been a trial by fire. The Vorsk Empire's fleet had retreated after their failed attempt to challenge the colony's defenses, but the threat remained. The Interstellar Council had called for an emergency summit to address interspecies unity and security. Humans, for the first time, were being recognized as equal partners in galactic strategy. Not fragile newcomers, but a species capable of ingenuity, courage, and leadership. Ethan felt proud of what humanity had achieved, but he also realized that his personal life was equally extraordinary. He had not just gained Lyra, he had gained an entire family. And now that family was preparing for a celebration, a formal wedding ceremony that would symbolize not only their union, but the hope of peace across worlds. Lyra approached Ethan quietly, her hand brushing against his. "Are you ready?" she asked. Ethan looked around at the lively activity. "I think I'm ready," he said with a small smile. "I just hope I can survive the celebration without tripping over someone or floating objects." Lyra laughed softly, leaning close. "You will be fine. You have learned so much already." The wedding ceremony was held in the central hall of Eden's Reach, a grand space adorned with floating light panels that shimmered like distant stars. Aliens of many species mingled with humans, all gathered to witness the historic union. The hall buzzed with excitement, curiosity, and admiration. Humans, often underestimated in interstellar affairs, were now center stage, and not because of brute strength, but because of courage, heart, and innovation. Ethan walked down the aisle, flanked by Lyra and her sisters. Seren's calm presence offered reassurance. Nira's protective gaze reminded him of safety. Valine's curiosity sparked light-hearted laughter from the crowd, and Tira's playful energy made even the most serious diplomats smile. Lyra walked beside him, radiant in her flowing gown designed with both Aelorian elegance and human simplicity. She looked at him with a warmth that made his chest tighten. The officiant, an elder Aelorian diplomat, spoke with a voice that resonated softly through the hall. "Today we witness a union not only of two individuals, but of worlds. This human and this Aelorian, joined in love and mutual respect, represent the future of interstellar unity." Ethan felt a shiver of pride. He had never imagined standing here not just as a human in front of aliens, but as a symbol of what humanity could achieve: courage, heart, and the ability to rise to any challenge. As vows were exchanged, Lyra spoke first. "Ethan Cole, you have shown me patience, courage, and kindness beyond what I imagined possible. You have embraced not just me, but my family, my culture, and the challenges of our worlds. I pledge my life to you and to the unity we create together." Ethan's voice trembled slightly as he responded. "Lyra Thavel, you have shown me a world beyond my imagination. You have taught me bravery, curiosity, and love. I pledge my life to you, to your family, and to the bond that unites us all." When the officiant declared them officially united, the crowd erupted into applause. Humans and aliens alike cheered, a sound that echoed through the vast hall, a sound that symbolized hope, courage, and the endless possibilities of connection. After the ceremony, the real celebration began. The sisters moved through the crowd with ease, engaging with dignitaries, humans, and other aliens. Sirin held calm conversations about strategy and diplomacy. Nira subtly demonstrated the effectiveness of their combined defensive systems. Velen entertained children and curious onlookers with stories about Earth and its strange inventions. And Tira, of course, caused a little playful mischief, levitating objects and encouraging laughter throughout the hall. Ethan watched, amazed. He realized that each sister had become a bridge, not just between Lyra and himself, but between humanity and the galaxy. Their personalities, combined with his own human traits, created a unique harmony that impressed and inspired everyone around them. Lyra approached him, holding 2 small cups filled with a glowing ceremonial beverage. "To us," she said softly. "To us," Ethan repeated, clinking his cup gently against hers. They drank, feeling the warmth of shared experience, courage, and the bond that extended beyond their species. Later, in the quiet moments of the evening, Ethan and Lyra walked through the observation deck, watching the stars spin slowly beneath them. Lyra leaned her head against his shoulder. "Do you realize what we've done?" Ethan asked quietly. "Humans have never been seen like this before, and capable of bravery, creativity, and heart on a galactic scale." Lyra nodded. "Yes, and you have shown it personally. You faced chaos, danger, and challenges, and never faltered. That is why I love you, Ethan. Not just for your courage, but for your heart." Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment and wonder. "I never imagined my life would turn out like this. But I wouldn't change a thing." Behind them, the hum of the colony continued, a gentle reminder that life in space was never simple, but always full of opportunity, connection, and growth. In the following days, the family settled into a new rhythm. Ethan's apartment, once chaotic, had become a hub of life, learning, and laughter. Serene helped organize long-term plans for the colony's defenses. Nira monitored both security and efficiency. Velen asked endless questions, often providing unexpected insights. And Tira continued to inject playfulness into every moment, reminding everyone that life should be joyful. Ethan had changed as well. He was no longer just a human engineer. He was a member of a family that spanned worlds, a representative of humanity's potential and a bridge between cultures. He had learned patience, adaptability, and creativity in ways he never imagined. He had survived chaos, defended the colony, and proven that humans could thrive even in the most alien of circumstances. Months later, as the family gathered in their apartment to watch the orbiting sunrise, Ethan reflected on their journey. The Vorsk threat had been neutralized for now. The colony was thriving, and the bond between humans and Alorians had never been stronger. Lyra's sisters were no longer outsiders in his life. They were part of his daily existence, part of his family, and part of a team that had faced chaos and danger together. Serene had grown fond of his strategic mind. Nira respected his problem-solving. Velen adored his curiosity. And Tira had formed a mischievous but loving bond with him that brought laughter every day. Ethan turned to Lyra and her sisters, his heart full. "I said yes to one of you," he said with a smile, "but I think I gained 5 families instead." Lyra laughed softly, leaning against him. "And we gained you," she said. Serene nodded in approval. "Humans are remarkable, Ethan. You have proven it." Nira smiled faintly. "Yes, your species continues to surprise us," Velen giggled. "And entertain us." Tira bounced slightly. "And you're fun to annoy." Ethan laughed, feeling the warmth and joy of a home unlike any other. He realized that humanity had something no technology could replace: courage, creativity, adaptability, and heart. And in this small corner of space, humanity had proven itself once again. As the artificial sun rose higher over Eden's reach, Ethan looked out at the stars. For the first time, humans were no longer just inhabitants of Earth. They were partners in the galaxy, capable of connection, innovation, and courage. And he, a human among aliens, had become part of a family that spanned worlds. Chaotic, vibrant, loving, and extraordinary. Life would never be simple. Chaos would always come, but Ethan, Lyra, and her sisters had shown that when hearts unite across species, the impossible becomes possible. Humanity had not just survived, it had thrived. And for Ethan Cole, that was the greatest adventure of all.